Just absorb, because there is a lot that we're going to cover today. There is a lot involved with being a contest master, but it's not that hard. So here's what we're going to discuss today. We're going to talk about the most important thing you need to remember as contest master. We're going to talk about how you prepare for a contest as a contest master. The contest site preparation when you get there. Contest briefings, contestant briefings, because you have to brief the contestants, just like Barbara had to brief the judges when she talked about being a chief judge. Pre-contest announcements, you need to make some announcements to the audience to make sure order is maintained. Introducing the contestants, there is a formula for properly introducing the contestants. And a contestant interviews and announcement, this is very important too. Now keep in mind, many of these things work in an online world as well as an in-person contest. I will cover mostly in-person contests. Tom Kasha has a presentation later this afternoon about how to handle contests that are held via Zoom or online. Now I'm going to start with the most important thing you have to remember. And if you remember this, you've got it down. It's about instance. It's not in any way, shape, or form about you. Keep that in mind throughout the contest and you will be fine. But we're going to talk about this a few more times today too. Preparation. I'm so glad that Barbara covered this. Download and read the most current contest rulebook from Toastmasters. It's free. It's easy to get to through the District 8 website or through the Toastmasters International website. And the rules do change every year. So you need to be aware of those as a contest master so you make sure you are doing things properly and the contestants are properly briefed. You want to verify with the contest chair that the contestants have completed all the proper paperwork, their certificates of eligibility and originality, and their speech bios. And yes, that is not your job necessarily unless you're also the contest chair, but it doesn't hurt to prod the contest chair to make sure you have everything you need, because there's nothing worse than getting to a contest and having to scramble to get all the paperwork you need and having people fill out this form and that form. The more paperwork you have ahead of time, the better off you will be in the contest. Also, I like to obtain the contestants' names and speech titles from the contest chair ahead of time, and they should have that. That way I can start practicing their names and I can get to know their speech titles. I want those in my head ahead of time. I don't want the first time I announce that speech title or that name to be the day of the contest. And if there's a test speaker, and in District 8, sometimes we call it the pattern speaker, there during the evaluation contest, get their name and speech title as well. The more you prepare ahead of time, the easier it becomes for you on contest day. And if this is a table topics question, prepare a question, seal it in an envelope, and do not tell anybody else that question. The topic needs to be reasonable length. It can't be a yes or no answer. And it shouldn't require detailed knowledge about a certain subject. For example, I am not going to ask somebody about baseball in a table topics contest because some people aren't baseball fans. I'm not going to ask them about origami because I better say that right, because Dawn will talk to me about that later. But Dawn loves origami, but she would probably be one of the few people that could answer a question I had about origami. So you want to make sure the topic you choose just requires general knowledge and that just about anybody will be able to answer. You want to keep the question a little bit shorter too, because if you have a 3-paragraph question, they really don't know what you're asking. So what to wear? And this is my personal preference. This is the world according to Kevin, which you're getting a lot of today. Wear your Sunday best. You see me dressed in a suit today because I'm emceeing. I'm representing Toastmasters. I'm representing District 8. And I want to be dressed the best that I possibly can. Now, I will talk to an organization when I speak for other organizations and say, what is proper attire for this meeting? And I will dress accordingly. Sometimes a suit isn't proper or a dress isn't proper, but you want to make sure you're properly dressed to respect a position that you are fulfilling on that day. Goes with out saying shoes clean, polished, well-groomed. No shiny or distracting objects. And I do this when I compete too. I don't wear anything that is going to flash when it catches light. I don't wear my hoop earrings that people can see dangling and moving around out there. I don't want the focus to be on something other than me as a contest master when I'm speaking, and then the speakers when they're speaking. And empty your pockets. There's nothing worse than seeing somebody up there with bulges in their pocket say, I wonder what they have in their pocket. You know, that looks like a revolver, and you get scared. You want to make sure your pockets are empty, no cell phone on your belt, just nice, clean dress, and everything looks normal. And what to bring? I bring several things. I bring a deck of cards for determining the speaking order. And I pull aside the ace 2, 3, 4, 5, or however many contestants there are of 3 different suits. That way, if some of the cards get damaged, then I can revert to the other set of 5 or 6 cards. The other thing I do too is I let them pick, I shuffle them in front of them, then pull them out in front of me. But if it's a virtual contest, you can draw for them. So all you have to do is shuffle them on the screen there and then say, okay, I am drawing for Tom Kasha, and Tom, you got number 3 speaking position. Then you draw for the next person and you just show it on the screen, keep everything in front of you. And that's probably the fairest way to do it that way. But there are other ways I'm sure Tom will cover as well in his presentation. Bring, if it's in person, blank speaker certificates of eligibility and originality forms. I don't know if I've ever been at a contest where everybody has filled out all their forms ahead of time and I need to get those forms from them to do my job properly. The blank bio form, you need that as well. A copy of the current contest rulebook. Barbara covered this. It is indispensable to have that there because the rules change so much. If there's a question, I need a reference and I need to be able to tell the contestants the proper answer. The table topics question, if applicable. And this is me, this is the Boy Scout in me. I bring 2 working pens and a pad of paper. I've been at contests before where there has not been a program or the person with the program was running late. This allowed me to write down things. And when I hand out the forms to people to fill out that they haven't filled out before the contest, I have a pen to let them borrow and use. And when I get that back, I have a backup pen in case my pen stops working. Call that a little bit paranoid on my part, but I like to be prepared. Now, the contest site preparation, this is important as well. Oh yeah, I forgot. It is about the contestants. Think about that from the time you get out of your car and walk into the site or the time you log in on Zoom. It is about them. We don't need to hear about you. It's making the day the best you possibly can for each contestant. So upon arrival, what do? I arrive in the Zoom room or I arrive at the physical site at least 30 minutes prior to the briefings. I obtain all the forms I need if I don't have them already. I obtain copies of the completed contestant and speech bio forms. And I obtain copies of the certificate of participation if the contest chair is giving those out for this contest. I get all of my paperwork together as quickly as I can once I get there. I get a copy of the program if a program is available so I can take notes and write down speech order on that. I also make sure that the names are spelled correctly. So I look and see if I see an obvious error on the program so I can correct that. But I'm going to ask that question of the contestants again later as well. I find out who the dignitaries in the audience are and I get that written down. What I usually do, because I don't necessarily know all the dignitaries in the district, I will go ahead and I will ask my area director, my division director, or the district director, or somebody there that would know, did I miss anybody? Here's my list. And I get the entire list and I put that in the order from the highest level down to the lowest level. So I would start with past international directors and go on down the line, get to our district directors and PDQs and on down the line from there. I find out if any district officials need to make announcements after the contestant interviews, because there are some announcements that need to be made, and there is invariably time to kill while the ballot counters and chief judge are counting the ballots. You want to find a way to fill out that time. And if there is a test or pattern speaker, whatever you want to call it, introduce yourself, verify the pronunciation of their name, and I am a stickler for this. I will write down the name phonetically on my program so I pronounce it correctly. I cringe every time I hear a name mispronounced at a contest when the name is announced. It just really bothers me. And that's a personal thing, but the name that you have given to you is the most important thing to you. And I read this in Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, the best book ever written. And you need to make a concerted effort to pronounce everybody's name correctly. Get their speech title. Ask them what 2 questions they would like you to ask them in the interview off of their bio. It isn't table topics. This is about making them look good. That goes back to my number 1 rule. It's about making the contestants and the helpers look good. Find out if they need any setup, and if so, notify the sergeant at arms, and the sergeant at arms can possibly help them get things set up. They may have props, they may have other things that need to be set up. And then ask them where they will be sitting, because the contestants need to know where the pattern speaker is sitting. The contestants will want to look at that person, and you need to know ahead of time so you can let them know the pattern speaker will be sitting right over there in the first chair on that side, that side of the room. You also need to do a facilities check. So you want to familiarize yourself with the room layout. And by that, where is the timers table? You need to understand where it is and physically go up and look and make sure if you're on the stage in the speaking area, you can see the timing, lights, cards, whatever they're using for timing. You also want to figure out what you will be defining as the speaking area. So you will define a speaking area, inform the chief judge so the chief judge can let the judges know what the speaking area is. And there's going to be more on that later because that could possibly change. And what paths are available for people to access the speaking area. I've been in rooms where the chairs are all the way across, there's no aisle up the middle, and it's hard for people to get to the speaking area when they're called on. And you may have people with special needs to get to that speaking area. So you want to make sure there is a clear and easy path for every contestant to get up to the stage area. Are there any distractions in the room? Are there some bright lights? Are there some moving objects in the room that you need to take care of? Make sure you minimize the distractions in the room. Is the lighting appropriate? I've been in rooms that are too dark before, and we do a lot of contests at libraries. So I will go to whoever runs a facility and say, hey, it's a little bit dark in there. Are there any other lights we can turn on, or can we do this, or can we do that? And they are usually very accommodating. You want to know where you're going to sit after introducing each of the contestants. You want to be close enough to the stage that there's not a long period of time from the end of their speech to you getting up on stage, congratulating them, and transitioning the meeting. You want to know where the emergency exits and bathrooms are. That's very important too, because if the sergeant at arms does not announce that, that will be your responsibility to announce so everybody, for safety's sake, knows where the emergency exits are. And I think most people would like to know where the bathrooms are when the contests are going 2 and 3 hours. And where will you conduct the contestant briefings? Will you be doing it in the front of the room so you can point to the speaking area? And that's preferable, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes you may have to do it somewhere else. So figure out where you will conduct the contestant briefings, and you need to make sure that is far enough away from the judges' briefings so you're not talking over with each other and interfering. The contestant briefings, very much like Barbara said for the judge briefings. Oh, wait, it's about the contestants, not you. When you are briefing, make sure you put through your head again, it's about them, it's not about me. The contest master briefing is the contestants, the sergeant at arms, and the audio technician, if there is an audio technician, if microphones are used. This is usually at the district level, but I have seen some lower level contests use sound devices. And if they do, the audio technician should be in there to explain to the contestants how the microphones work and talk about the procedure. The chief judge will talk to the judges, the timers, and the ballot counters. So in the contestant briefing, I verify the presence of all the contestants, the spelling of their name, and the pronunciation of their name. Now, if a contestant isn't there, I will immediately call for the backup contestant for that previous contest. If they're not there, then you go for the third. I think there are 3 levels on that, but after that you don't. But you start briefing them. Even though the contestant has until the contest begins to show up, you want to make sure you get the person in there that is the backup if the primary is not there. Congratulate them for making it this far. Make sure you try to put them at ease and thank them for being here. And just start off with just a little bit of light chatter to relax them, because they are going to be nervous that day. This is important to them. They've worked hard to get here, and you want to recognize that and make sure they feel appreciated. Ensure you have the correct title for the speech contestant speeches. I have had a title a few days ahead of time. I've seen it on their contestant form, but then when they get there, they change the title of their speech. They're allowed to do that. So I would say, I have as the title of your speech, shout. And I said, oh no, I've changed that. It is now shout it out loud. So I will change that on my program. Make sure you have verification of their speech title. Draw for the speaking position. We talked about that. You can use cards. If you don't have a deck of cards, writing numbers on a piece of paper, folding them up is fine too. Just come up with an equitable method of doing that. I don't recommend rock, paper, scissors, though. That never has worked, especially when you have more than 3 contestants. Review the speech contest rules with the speakers. Now, you're not going to read the entire rule book, but you will cover the most important rules in the rule book. So you will review the speaker's certification of eligibility and requirements. You will talk about their speech has to be at least 75% original, and you will go through that and make sure they understand that, because that is a protestable item. You'll review the timing protocol. You will talk to them about timing. And yes, they should know timing by now, but explain the timing and tell them we will have the timers stand up and show you the timing devices and how they will signal each time, and fully explain it. But here are the timing requirements right now. Acquaint them with the exact speaking area, the lectern placement, the test speaker location, and location of the timers table. Usually when I'm in a contest, the contestants will say, we don't want the lectern here. And if all the contestants agree to that, I move it out of the way, leave it off stage, and I just introduce without the lectern. And that's something you will have to decide. But many times when I define the speaking area, a contestant will say, well, Kevin, you only have it to the front row. I would like to have it go back 3 rows into the audience, and here's why. That's part of my speech. And I will just get consensus from the rest of the contestants. And if we have that consensus, we will change the speaking area. I will let the chief judge know as soon as possible, but that won't be in time to notify the judges. So I will make that announcement when I make my beginning announcements at the beginning of the contest. Ask the speakers if they have any props or setup. Now, the sergeant at arms is not responsible for helping them with this. It is the responsibility of the contestant to set up any props they have and get everything done, and they have to do that in that 1 minute of silence. Now, if there's a lectern there or something, they can hide something in that is not obviously there for another contestant's speech, they can do that far enough ahead of time. If the lectern's right next to you and they want to put something in that cubby hole before the contest begins, that's fine. But if they want a chair in a certain position, or if they want this or that, anything else, they are responsible for getting the prop set up. You are the contest master. You need to stay there and be in charge of the meeting the whole time. You shouldn't be running off stage to help move this, move that, and do other things. If a microphone is used, explain when and where they will be fitted with the microphone. And every contestant has the opportunity to test amplifying equipment before the contest if they wish. If you do have amplifying equipment, I usually try to find the contestants well before briefings and say, We do have a microphone that we will be putting on you if you'd like to wear it today. If you would like to try it out, please go see our audio technician and have them try it out for you. But they do get the opportunity to test that. They get to see how it works for them, where they're going to pin it on their clothes, how they will use that, and how they sound with it. And the earlier they do that, the better. Explain to them what can be protested, who can protest, and how to protest. Barbara covered that pretty well. There are now 3 areas for protest. There only used to be 2, and the contestants are allowed to protest. I am not allowed as a contest master to protest, but the contestants can protest. And it is very important that they know that. It's for originality. It's for referencing another speech in that same contest. And they can also protest for eligibility. And yes, that should be determined ahead of time. But if they know somebody is not eligible and it was missed, they are allowed to protest and let the chief judge know that. Hey, this club only has 7 members and this person's representing that club. They are not eligible because they are not officially a club with less than 8 members. Their dues may be in, but if the club they are competing for is not a club in good standing, then they could be disqualified. Review with the contestants how they will be introduced. Let them know the exact formula you'll use. So when I introduce somebody for the international speech contest, I will call their name and have them start walking up. I will be silent till they get there. I shake their hand, or if they're not comfortable shaking hands, we can do a fist bump, we can do an elbow bump, or we can just nod with whatever they're most comfortable with. Then when they're settled, I say the title of their speech, the title of their speech again, and their name. I tell them where I will exit the stage and sit so they know where I'm going. And when I exit the stage, I do not shake their hand and then walk in front of them. The focus is on them. I back up, walk behind them, and then exit the stage. I want the focus to be on the contestant, not me. You do not want to block the view of the contestant. So after you acknowledge them, you've finished your announcement. If you're sitting on the same side that they're on, you walk behind them. If you're sitting on the other side, it's easy, you just walk away, but do not walk in front of the contestant. Ask each contestant which 2 items from their bio that they want you to ask them in an interview. And tell them, keep it at 1 to 2 minutes. Don't go on for 5 minutes on answering their questions if you can, because we do have limited time for interviews. And why do I do this? Once again, it is about the contestant. I was at a contest. I was in the finals at District 8 one year. I brought my kids, my wife, my parents, my sister-in-law from California was here. And the contest master who interviewed me talked more about themselves. They asked questions that had nothing to do with any of my interests. They talked about things that interested them. And you know what? I placed second in that contest, but afterwards, it wasn't congratulating me on the contest. It was, what the heck was going on with that contest master? You should be inconspicuous up there. You should be very quiet except when you need to speak. It shouldn't be anything about you. It should be focused on what the contestant wants to talk about. That's why I asked them what 2 questions they would like me to ask. I may not get to 2 questions because their answer may be too long for the first question, but I make sure they know what's coming so it's not like a table of topics, and they can talk about what they want to talk about, what they want us to know about them. You ask if they have any questions. And special note, you know, we talked about the rule book and rules, and this is one that's always bugged me. When I first started competing, I had my name badge on one time, and the contest master told me, you can't wear that. And I said, why not? It's not allowed in contests. So I believed them, I took it off, and this is a District 8 thing. I have heard this for years in District 8 contests. It's not in the rule book. The rule book says nothing about wearing a name tag or badge. With that said, I bring this up to the contestants because there are some judges with preconceived notions that you can't do that. They think it gives you an unfair advantage if it says Kevin DeRocher DTM, because people, oh, DTM, he's got to be good. Now, there's some DTMs that aren't that good, but you can wear a name tag. I just advise against it, but I bring that up as an example. There are certain things that judges, for whatever reason, good or bad, think are rules and they aren't. We're getting better at that as a district. But at the same time, you need to be aware of some of the idiosyncrasies of our district and make sure the contestants know, yes, you can do that. However, I would advise against it, and here is why. Wish all the contestants the best of luck and remind them of the contest start time. Make sure you give them enough time between contest briefings and the start of the contest that they can go adjust their clothing, go to the restroom, or take care of whatever they do. At least 5 minutes, preferably 10 if you can, so they do have a little bit of time to compose themselves and just get relaxed again, breathe that deep sigh of relief. And as soon as the briefing is finished, I arrange my paperwork in order. So I will take the bio form for speaker number 1, and right behind that, I will put the certificate of participation for them. And then for speaker 2, speaker 3, speaker 4. So I have all of my paperwork in order when the interviews happen, because I do not want to be shuffling through paperwork when a speaker is speaking. And the last thing I want to be doing is when I'm calling them up for interviews, be trying to find the right paperwork. I get that in order in that 5 to 10 minutes before the contest starts. And now I have a nice, neat stack of paper. And on top, I have my program, which has the speech title. It has their name, the phonetic pronunciation if I need that, and I am ready to go. Pre-contest announcements. This is important as well. So you welcome and thank everybody for attending. And if the Sergeant at Arms does not announce this, sometimes the Sergeant at Arms will, sometimes they won't. But make sure everybody knows where the bathrooms are, where the emergency exits are. Remind everybody, and even if the Sergeant at Arms says this, turn off anything that makes noise. I think anybody that's been to more than one contest has heard some form of phone, computer, pager, something go off in the middle of somebody's speech. That should never happen. And even if you remind somebody, it could happen. But you want to take every precaution possible. And remind everybody to stay seated when the contestants are speaking and avoid motion. Don't be turning and moving around. If they have to leave the room, they should do so during that 1 minute of silence. And remind the audience that no photography is allowed during the speech. Now, there will be some exceptions. There can be some videoing. The district will video contests if you're in person. Sometimes a contestant will ask, hey, I brought my husband here with me. Is it okay if they video my speech? And that is okay as well. And I would announce that is contestant number 3 is having their speech filmed, and they will be filming their speech, but you don't want any still photography during the contest. You verify to the audience the correct spelling of the contestants' names if it's wrong. And I know this isn't necessary for the judges' forms anymore. It used to be that the names had to be spelled correctly on the judges' forms, but it's still nice to verify the contestant's name. And as soon as I start verifying, the first question that always comes is, what's the speaking order? As soon as I utter my first syllable as contest master, people start asking, what's the speaking order? What's the speaking? It's amazing how everybody wants to know that right away. And if they just start asking, I'll get to that in just a minute, but let me get through the initial announcements first. People love to know the speaking order, even though they're going to see the speaking order as the contestants come up. Define the speaking area. And this is where, especially if the speaking area has been redrawn, if the contestants have said, no, we need the speaking area to be from here to there, and to there, and I told the chief judge it was a different area, I will announce that so the judges know. I will hopefully have gotten to the chief judge by then, but all the judges may not know the speaking area has changed. Inform the audience that the contestants have been briefed. Ask the timers to stand, read the timing rules, and demonstrate the timing signals. And when they demonstrate them, they should demonstrate them towards the front of the room and then turn so the rest of the room can see it all as well. Because some of the contestants will be sitting behind the timers, probably most of them, because the timer's usually in the front. So they need to make sure everybody in the room can see the timing signals. Ask the chief judge if the judging team has been briefed, and then you let the contest begin. So getting ready for the speakers. Before each speaker is announced, look at the timing signals, make sure they're set properly. You don't know how many times I have had a speech contestant finish and I'm ready to announce the next speaker and I glance at the speaking lights and the timing lights and it's on red, green, or yellow. Turn to the timers and say, would you please reset the timing lights? You do not want a speaker to come up and be facing a red light before they even begin, or have them have to tell the timers, could you please reset the lights? Do that double check for the contestant and make sure the timing lights are reset. Announce the speaker using the proper format. We'll go through that in a minute. Smile, look at them in the eye as they're walking up, and then shake their hand or acknowledge them with your elbow bump, fist bump, whatever you decide on. Exit the stage promptly and sit down. And I just quietly say to every one of them, good luck. And I say the exact same thing to every contestant. I do not say anything different to any single contestant. When you exit, walk behind them, not in front of them. We talked about that. And as soon as it's finished, lead the applause and promptly get back to them, acknowledge them, say thank you, and let them leave the stage. Ask the timers to give you a minute. Stand quietly and look at the timers. I usually sit there with my hands behind my back or my hands crossed in front of me. I'm not looking at friends in the audience, smiling at them. I am just maintaining that moment of silence. I'm leading by example for everybody in the room. After they signal you, repeat the process until all the speakers have competed. And after the final speaker, you don't need to ask the timers to give a minute or two for the judges because they're going to take as long as they need to collect the ballots. And when the chief judge and ballot counter leaves the room, you can proceed to the next phase, but make sure they're out of the room and the door is closed. Make no comments before or after each of the contestants' speech, unless you're reminding the audience of proper etiquette. Don't say, nice speech, I really enjoyed that. That could influence somebody. Just say thank you to them quietly and be quiet about their speech. For the international speech contest, humorous tall tales, it's contestant name, speech title name. Table topics, it's contestant name. Read the question a second time, contestant name. And for evaluation contests, it's just contestant name, acknowledge them. As soon as they look like they're standing straight and settled, say their name again and walk off the stage quickly. Say nothing about the test or pattern speaker's speech or objectives. It's the same as any speech name, speech title name. Make no comments after they finish. The interview is very important. It is about the contestants, not you. I know you've never seen this slide before, but if you take away just one thing from this presentation, that is it. The focus should be completely on the contestant. We don't need to hear about anything you thought about the speech, what you like to do, or don't answer any questions. This is not table topics. Your job is to make them look good. That's why I asked them what questions they would like me to ask them. Introduce the contestants one at a time. And I know sometimes you bring up all the contestants. I prefer not to do that. I want the focus to be on the contestant. Lead the applause for every contestant as they come up and as they leave stage. Look them in the eye and smile as they approach the stage. Shake their hand or acknowledge them somehow. Ask them what club they're representing. Ask them their first question. Then I move back a step or two and then off to the side, and there goes my green screen falling over. So they can, let me fix my green screen. So they can have the focus on them and there's no focus on me. Look at them the entire time they're responding and have a smile on your face. So I'm looking at them as they answer and I'm smiling. Ask the second question, shake their hand, thank them on behalf of the audience, club, area, district. hand them their certificate of participation, and lead the applause as they leave the stage. Interviewing a test speaker, it's basically the same way, but make sure the timers give you 4 minutes on the clock so you can end that before the 5 minutes the contestants have to prepare their evaluations. Announce the names of the dignitaries in the audience, ask them to stand. And as I said before, the order should be highest to lowest, and get help with this. And then write them out on a piece of paper. That's why I bring that pad of paper, and I have them all in order and verify pronunciation. Call on district officials that have announcements to make. Return control of the meeting to the dignitary responsible for the awards. You are generally not going to be the awards presenter. They may call you back up to help, but you return control to the contest master, the contest chair, or to the district official that is running the meeting. And in summary, I'm just going to give you one item in summary, and can anybody guess what that is? Nobody? You can unmute yourself and say. Oh, come on.
It's all about the contestants.
Exactly. It is about the contestant, not you. And if you remember that, it's easy. This time I will take any questions you have. And I do not have chat up, so Tom, if questions went in chat, if you could.
Had a great job, Kevin. That's not a question, though.
Oh, okay. I told you I'd get done in my allotted time.
Okay, somebody asked, what is a test speaker?
A test speaker is the same as a pattern speaker. So a test or pattern speaker is a person that gives a speech that in an evaluation contest, all of the evaluators evaluate the exact same speech. You can't have a different speech for each evaluator. So it's a single speech that all of the evaluation contestants evaluate.
Should you ask contestants what club they are from and number they are from?
I don't ask what number they're from, because especially since the numbers have gone to like 5 million digits. If they want to say it, they can. But that gets a lot of people nervous. And I tell them that in the briefing. I'm not going to ask you your club number. You can say it if you want, because there are some people, they're focusing so hard on remembering that 775-2219 number, and they're not focusing on their speech. They can remember their club name. I'm not as concerned about the club number.
All right, it is actually 1:30 now.
Okay.
Hey, Tom, Kevin, there is one more question here. How do you handle the draw with a Zoom contest?
With the Zoom contest, you can grab your deck of cards, you can shuffle it and hold it up then, and then say, I'm drawing for Suresh, and pull out the card and it'll say 2 of clubs. Throw it aside. This is for Tom Kasha, 5 of clubs. He's number 5. And just have those in front of you like that.
Okay. You know, you had mentioned about the wearing name tags on it, but sometimes I guess some people, if the name tags have your club number, your educational awards, or club name, do you think that may influence people, and maybe it's better not to have it just for that reason?
I agree. I tell them I wouldn't put it on. And
okay.
I think it influences people more at the lower level contests, right. At a club contest where the judges aren't as experienced, at an area contest, at a division contest. And if you want to be contest master, speaking of that, start off at a club or an area and get used to doing it. Get your comfort zone for that. And then talk to district leaders about doing it at a division level or a district level where the stakes are a lot higher. Practice a little bit earlier. Just like you give your first speeches at a club, you don't start right away in an area or division contest. You work your way up.
And I think part of it's not just the fact that you have your name. That's not the problem. It's the other things that went with the name that people were upset about.
Mm-hmm. But it is not a rule, but I don't advise against it. When I speak, I do not have that there. I have my little Toastmasters pin. I think that's on this side. But it's just Toastmasters International. It's nothing that says who I am as a Toastmaster.
Okay.
I'm going to interject here just a second, because I agree with Kevin. Like the name tags, when you're thinking about sitting in a contest, even, you can't see the stuff on the name tag. So especially those gold ones. So what difference does it make, really?
Yeah, it shouldn't make a difference, but I have talked to enough judges in this
Right.
district in the past that they feel that is a rule. And until that is overcome, and even so, I'm not going to wear it, even if I know that every judge in the district knows that's not a rule. I just don't think it's good practice. I like to just be
Yeah.
cleanly dressed with as little distraction as possible. Nothing for them to look at and try to read what's on my name tag.
Sure.
So-
Fair enough.
So Curtis asked, why do the speakers need to know where the pattern speaker is sitting?
Because when you give an evaluation, and I've won the evaluation contest twice, you are talking to the speaker. You're not talking to the audience. That's one of the few times you're not going to be talking to the audience. You're not giving a speech. You should be talking directly to the person that gave that speech. You're giving feedback to them. They need to know where to look in the room. They shouldn't have to be hunting around the room to find out where the pattern speaker or test speaker is. Let them know. If they want to look at them, great. If they don't, that's fine too. But they need to know where that is. So that's one less thing they have to worry about figuring out.
This is kind of funny. Dawn asks, what about the drum roll? Some love it and some hate it.
I'm not a fan, but you know, it doesn't bother me either.
Same here. Anything else? Another great job, Kevin.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And we have 6 minutes before the next presentation starts if people want to take a short break, but we will start promptly again at 1:40.
Oh, wait. Dawn Tucker asked, common mistakes, question mark.
Common mistakes is you trying to be a stand-up comedian or talk about things that interest you as a contest master. I see that over and over and over again. And that is why I had that same slide in there 5 or 6 times, is it's not about you. It is nothing to do with you at this contest. I would rather have them totally forget who the contest master was and say, wow, the contestant gave some great answers to those questions. And I love to throw them those softball questions. I love to have it be completely about them. The questions need to be simple, and they need to make sure you highlight the contestant, not you.
I think we're done.
Okay, fantastic. 5 minutes till we start again. Thank you, everybody.